Hello everyone, welcome to Max Brains. இன்னைக்கு இந்த வீடியோவில் TNOU M.Sc Psychology அதோடைய கான்செப்ட்ஸை நம்ம பார்த்துட்ருக்குறோம். ஸோ ஆல்ரெடி இதில் ரெண்டு பிளாக் நம்ம ஃபுல்லாக கவர் பண்ணிட்டோம். 6th யூனிட் வரைக்கும் முடிச்சிட்டோம். 7th யூனிட்டும் முடிச்சிட்டோம் பிளாக் 3ல. ஸோ திஸ் இஸ் த 8th யூனிட் அண்டர் பிளாக் 3. ஓகே, ஸோ இந்த இது முடிஞ்சிருச்சு அப்படின்னா 3 blocks are going to be covered for research methods and applied statistics. Okay, or the previous 7 videos are there in the channel. You can just look back and get benefited. So now getting into the 8th unit, non-experimental research design. So this comes as a part of research design. So research design divided into one experimental irukkudu, next one is going to be non-experimental. Okay, we've already seen about experimental research design. So experimental research design la how we do the experimental method or the அதில் நமக்கு நிறைய டைப்ஸ் நம்ம பார்த்தோம். நம்ம டிபெண்டன்ட் குரூப்ஸ், இண்டிபெண்டன்ட் குரூப்ஸ், ஃபேக்டோரியல் குரூப்ஸ், பிளாக் டிசைன்ஸ், அண்ட் தென் we saw about triangulation, mixed design research பற்றி பார்த்தோம். ஸோ ஆல் தீஸ் திங்ஸ் were seen, baseline design, ஸோ எல்லாமே பார்த்தோம். ஸோ now getting into non-experimental research. Okay, so when you talk about non-experimental research அப்படின்றப்போ it is going to be descriptive or correlational. So ஒன்னுத்துக்கும் relationship என்னன்னு பார்க்கணும், இல்ல descriptive நம்ம பார்க்க போறோம். So that means you are describing a situation or phenomenon, just like you are describing if this if one phenomenon is going to be related to the other phenomenon or not என்ற மாதிரி. So relationship between two or more variables. So இதுக்கு நம்ம பண்றதுதான். And இங்க இது நம்ம no interference from the researcher. ரிசர்ச்சருக்கு எந்த இதுவும் கிடையாது. So here you can see that here this type of research is used when researcher has no specific research question about a causal relationship between two variables. Specific ida research question illama we will if we are going to do this அப்படின்றப்போ we will be doing this. So and then independent variable manipulate பண்றது is not that possible. Okay, so அந்த மாதிரி பட்ட situationsல we will be doing it. So என்னென்ன reasonsல பண்ணுவோம் அப்படின்றதெல்லாம் இங்க கொடுத்திருக்கு. See, these kind of things are what you need to remember when you are asked a general question. Sometimes when you look at the previous question, questions are asked like write about research design. So if such a question is asked, these introduction parts will help you to write the answers. So it's good to even read through this so that you will be able to understand the entire concept. So you can see subjects cannot be randomly assigned to conditions. It is about a causal relationship, but independent variable is not manipulated. It is broad and exploratory. It is a non-causal relationship between two variables. Okay, and then it is going to be accessed about the research subject. So idhula non-experimental in போகும்போது first you are learning about the quasi-experimental. So quasi-experiment is not completely experiment, it is half experimental அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம். So here you can see that true experiment மாதிரி quasi-experimentalலையும் we'll try to establish a cause and effect relationship between the dependent and the independent variable. So here you assign people some groups based on some random criteria, and this is possible where you cannot use the two experiments because of ethical or practical reasons. So because of these reasons, when you are not able to use the experimental research design, then you will be using the quasi-experimental research design. So இது எங்க அப்படின்னா இப்போ சைக்கோதெரபிஸ்ட் இருக்காங்க கிளினிக்ல அப்படின்னா they are trying to they are deciding to try out on a new therapy, but there are other people who treat the similar patients in the normal protocol. So இவங்க மட்டும் புதுசா ஏதோ தெரப்பி யூஸ் பண்ற மாதிரியும் இவங்க இல்ல நான் அதே தான் யூஸ் பண்றேன் அப்படின்னு ஒரு குரூப் இருக்கும்போது you can use these kind of pre-existing groups to study the symptom progression of the patients with new therapy versus the ones who are going to have the normal protocol. So இந்த மாதிரி பார்க்கும்போது you can see that there will be differences. So you can see that there will be some difference between the treatment and not about the other variables. So இதுல ஃபர்ஸ்ட் நம்ம பார்க்க போற டிசைன்ல அந்த quasi experimental என்ன அப்படின்னா non-equivalent group design. So non-equivalent group design alone is also asked in a 5-mark question. So non-equivalent group design பாத்தீங்கன்னா it is going to be used in social research, and then it is structured like a pre-test post-test. So first you do a test and then you give an intervention or you give a treatment. Okay, so and then adukapramete you are doing a post test. Okay, so first you're working on the pre test, then intervention method, and then your post test. So here what you are going to do is you are going to take two groups that are similar, the treatment and the control groups. So most often you are doing this. So sometimes in education level we are picking two comparable classrooms, or we can take two similar communities, or you can take two groups that are slightly similar, but we can never be sure if the groups are comparable, because if you're taking two classrooms, section A, section B, you can always not be sure that there will be a difference. What if the children compared between A and B sections are going to be similar? So நமக்கு வந்து சொல்ல முடியாது. Okay, so there can be similarities, there can be dissimilarities. So it is unlikely that the two groups would be as similar as they would if we assign them a random lottery. So இந்த மாதிரிப்பட்ட groups தான் you are telling it is going to be non-equivalent groups. So அதுக்கு தான் வந்து we are using the non-equivalent group design. So it often involves self-selection. So mostly the researcher will select the group because they find this kind of volunteers who are going to agree for the treatment. So wherein the other groups they might not. So you are assigning participants based on that. So idla vandu pathina you have some kind of group designs. Post test mattum non-equivalent group design, pre-test, post test, interrupted time series design. So over a period of time, whatever you do, okay, so all that we'll be seeing here also, time series design and then pre-test process switching replication, and then switching replication treatment removal design. So something is being given, so adha நம்ம remove பண்ணிட்டா அவங்க எப்படி react பண்ணுவாங்க அந்த மாதிரி. This can be some kind of rewards or punishment kind of thing. So now getting into ex post facto research design. What is ex post facto research design means? It transforms from what is the non-experimental design ledu pseudo experimental design transform avudu. So ex post facto research is nothing but you have the non-experimental. So this non-experimental vandu it is getting into pseudo experimental. Okay, so this is called the ex post facto research design. From what is done afterwards. So after the fact or retrospectively after some study has been done, so what happens? So or you can call it as a cause and effect relationship by observing an existing condition. So this is called the ex post facto research design. So ex post facto research வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா it is the method of testing out possible antecedents of events. So what has happened what has happened after something is being done. Okay, so and then has they happened or not, or are they manipulated by the researchers? So இது எல்லாமே வந்து நம்ம பார்க்கணும். So இதுல வந்து Kerlinger அப்படின்றவர் he has defined the ex post facto research as that in which the independent variable or the variables have already occurred. So this has already occurred, and then we are doing the observation of the dependent or the dependent variables. Okay, so this is what we are seeing here. So likewise, when you see Spector, he is suggesting that it is intended to transform a non-experimental design into a pseudo-experimental. So non-experimental na pannu nenichen, but then I am doing some kind of intervention. So I am converting it into a pseudo-experimental research design. So that is what we saw in the beginning. So it's more when you see that this is appropriate abdina, where a powerful experimental method also will not be possible. So adanal pannuvom. So you are having laboratory controls. So in mari patathalam pandrom, but this is also we are seeing that it is going to be costly or ethically undesirable. So like your experimental design, this is also going to be there. So idhukku example enna appadina, research on cigarette smoking and lung cancer. So for example, or you are examining the relationship between some kind of political, religious affiliation attitudes. Okay, and then or you are investigating the relationship between school achievement and these social classes. So in the marla irukumbodhu you can go to a pseudo experimental research kind of thing மாத்தலாம். அதனால தான் வந்து it is called as ex post facto. So the post factorial பண்றது. Next one is the time series design. So time series design ல பாத்தீங்கன்னா you are defining the time. So எந்த டைம்ல நான் பண்ண போறேன் அப்படின்றது தான். Okay. So data collected வந்து it is evaluated with time series analysis. So எல்லாமே வந்து you are collecting, so large series of observation are made on the same variable over time. So over a period of time. If you see, if you are going to do a research, if you are doing in a particular year, if for example if you are doing in 2025, you will have some result. The same thing if you are going to do it in 2027, you might get another result. So what happens is because these will considerably vary, the values might considerably vary. So that is what we are seeing here. Okay, so while time series design could explore repeated observations from the same unit of analysis, so in this case you have something called as interrupted time design. So okay, in the interrupted time series design அப்படின்றது என்ன அப்படின்னா, so this is like you are collecting data before and after intervention. So you are collecting data interrupted. So first you collect some data and then you give some gap and then you collect. So the time is going to be interrupted. So அந்த மாதிரி first ஒரு பண்றோம். So இப்போ 2025 ல ஒன்னு பண்றோம். Then you are giving some gap and then 2027 ல பண்றோம். Some could be 2025 ல இருந்து 2027 வரைக்கும். What are the things being done? So that is one way. Okay, so this is all the time series design la. So time series design la there are three things: descriptive, correlational and interrupted time series design. Descriptive enna appadina, data is collected and analyzed over time without trying any relationships. You are not trying to provide any kind of relationship. Summa you are observing changes with time. So descriptive வந்து you are observing changes with time. So that is descriptive. Correlation பார்த்தோம்னா you are examining the relationship. So you are examining the relation. That is correlation. Everywhere correlation means the same. You are examining the relationship between two variables or two or more variables without manipulating them. The interrupted series design I told you. The collecting before and after. So before and after intervention la vandu pathina you are collecting the data. Okay, the next one is going to be longitudinal research design. So longitudinal research design la pathina you need to you are having three studies under this. Longitudinal research design over a period of time da. So idhula moonu vishayam nyabagam vechiruknom. One is called as the cohort study, another one is called as the panel study, and அடுத்தது என்னன்னா cross sectional study, cross sectional trend study. So cohort study அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா cohort study is something called as follow up study. Follow up study na என்னது, அதே people கிட்ட போயிட்டு திரும்ப வந்து data collect பண்றது. So you're going to the same person and you're collecting some more data அப்படின்றப்போ the data might vary. The same person will have a different perspective in different time period. So that is this. So next one வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா panel study. So panel study ல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா different respondents. இங்க வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா same respondents. Okay, and panel study ல வந்து you have different respondents. Okay, the respondents are different. And then cross sectional study ல பாத்தீங்கன்னா you are studying few factors over time. Over a period of time you are going to study few factors. So and you can see very clearly between longitudinal cross sectional. So longitudinal வந்து gathers data over an extended period of time. Okay, so we have seen the world is development. It is employed in connection with longitudinal studies and deals with aspects of human growth. Okay, so இதுதான். So extended period of time என்றது short term இருந்தா it can be from weeks to months. Long term இருந்தா it can be over many years. So over a period of years நம்ம பண்றதா. So இதான் சொன்ன cohort study, panel study and cross sectional study. Okay, so அதனால இது over time என்ன சொல்லுவோம், trend study னு சொல்லுவோம். cross sectional வந்து நம்ம trend study அப்படினு சொல்லுவோம். So cross sectional research design என்னன்னா it produces at a particular point of time. So in the particular point of time la enna nadandhuchu, longitudinal is over a very long period of time. ஓகே, இங்க வந்து at a particular time of இதுல வந்து நமக்கு இருக்கும். ஸோ இதுல வந்து பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா one example is going to be அதான் எல்லாமே you have both the mix of cross sectional longitudinal everywhere. So you need to remember that longitudinal studyல வந்து investigating the physical growth of the child from birth to adolescence. So throughout the period. இப்போ cross sectional அப்படின்றப்ப என்னன்னா to describe a variable. So இது எப்படி இருக்குது, ஸோ அந்த ஒரு பீரியட்ல மட்டும் how is it behaving ன்ற மாதிரி you are going to measure. That is your taking a snapshot at a single moment of time. அதான் cross section. அதாவது போயினே இருக்கிறத நம்ம கிராஸ் பண்ணி இது என்னது, இந்த பர்டிகுலர் டேட்டா மட்டும் எனக்கு அனலைஸ் பண்ணி சொல்லு அப்படின்ற மாதிரி பண்றது தான் வந்து கிராஸ் செக்ஷனல் டிசைன். ஓகே, the next one is going to be epidemiology la enga use பண்றாங்க அப்படினா to assess exposure and disease. So for example, how much we are exposed to the radiation. So இதனால என்னென்ன disease வந்து நமக்கு affect ஆகுது. So cross sectional ல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா நிறைய factors வந்து we can analyze because it is done அந்த period of time ல என்னென்னலாம் இருக்குது, what all is going to affect ன்ற மாதிரி எல்லாத்தையுமே நம்ம பண்ண போறோம். So likewise, but this study வந்து cannot prove that overeating caused obesity அப்படின்றத வந்து அவங்களால ப்ரூவ் பண்ண முடியாது. ஏன்னா they are not doing the cause and effect here. ஓகே, ஸோ ரொம்ப கரெக்டா பண்ண மாட்டாங்க. ஒரு லாங் பீரியட் ஆஃப் டைம்ல நம்ம பண்ண முடியாது. ஸோ அந்த ஒரு பீரியட் ஆஃப் டைம்ல மட்டும் கண்டுபிடிக்கணும் அப்படின்னா they can do it. So it could only investigate whether exposure to factors. So overeating பண்ணா வருமா, நடக்கும் அப்படின்னு. பட் இதுதான் வந்து this is not the only factor அப்படின்றது வந்து they can't do. Okay, so that is your cross sectional research design. So the next one is going to be the advantages and disadvantages here. So advantage வந்து it is simple and expensive. ஏன்னா வந்து நமக்கு வந்து cross sectional design வந்து நமக்கு பண்ணும்போது it's like the time period நமக்கு simple and inexpensive இருக்குது. And then minimal room for error because we are finding out the variables at once நம்ம பார்த்துட்டு நமக்கு பண்றோம். So அதனால வந்து that the variables are the errors are not going to be much. So information conducted can be used for like further data analysis to get any causal relationships in more in depth. அடுத்து வந்து பல லிமிடேஷன் வந்து ஜென்ரலா காஸ் அண்ட் எஃபெக்ட் நமக்கு டிட்டர்மைன் பண்ணாது. இந்த பர்டிகுலர் டைம்குள்ள வேணும்னா மட்டும்தான் பண்ணும், இல்லைன்னா வந்து cross sectional பண்ணாது. So when somebody is going to ask you a question regarding cause and effect, you should be very clear in answering this kind of thing. So there can be a bias when it is not going to completely determine the exact cause and effect. So report bias is probable. Everywhere report bias will be possible. Biasing வந்து எல்லாத்துலயுமே எழுதிக்கலாம். Wherever you see disadvantage ல bias பத்தி நம்ம எழுதலாம். So then timing of snapshot is not always representative. ஸோ எனக்கு வந்து இது அந்த ஒரு சிங்கிள் ஸ்னாப்ஷாட்ல ஐம் டேக்கிங் அப்படின்னு நான் சொன்னேன் பாத்தீங்களா. ஸோ அது வந்து நமக்கு வந்து முன்னாடி பின்னாடி எப்படி இருந்தது அப்படின்றது நமக்கு தெரியாது. ஸோ ஒன்லி திஸ் பர்டிகுலர் டைம். ஸோ இது வந்து திஸ் வில் நாட் ரெப்ரசென்ட் த என்டையர் இதுன்னு சொல்லிட்டு நமக்கு சொல்ல முடியாது. நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து cannot be used to analyze behavior over a period of time. ஓவர் a period of time ஒரு லாங் டேர்முக்கு நம்ம பார்க்க முடியாது. So this is going to look at the variable at a particular moment. அவ்வளவுதான். So longitudinal studies தான் வந்து over extended period. So this is the main thing you need to understand between cross sectional studies and longitudinal study. So இதுக்கு வந்து அழகா differentiate between கொடுத்திருக்காங்க. So you can read this because sometimes in exam if they are going to ask you differentiate between cross sectional longitudinal, you can very easily write this. The next one is going to be case study research. Case study is when you are going to do an in-depth investigation for a single person, group, event or a community. Okay, so for a particular case மட்டும் எடுத்து நம்ம பண்றது. So in the beginning it was done only in clinical medicine. So clinical medicineல மட்டும் தான் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. Then now it is used in many things. Okay, நிறைய இதுல வந்து they are using it for the case study. So இதுல என்ன அப்படின்னா வந்து you are relating it to the individual's past. So இது retrospective இருக்குது. Okay, and then significant events occurring in their daily life also. So now you can see that the experimenter is going to manipulate variables to determine the cause of significance வந்து or ask questions of large samples. So நிறைய சாம்பிள்ல போயிட்டு they will not be able to do as in the non-experiment as in the other quantitative. So அதனால எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்டல் பண்ணும்போதோ நமக்கு இதெல்லாம் பண்ணும்போது பாத்தீங்கன்னா கேஸ் ஸ்டடி எல்லாம் பண்ணும்போது you are selecting a small group of people, So that way they'll be able to assess the characteristics of a single unit, ஒரு child இல்ல ஒரு class இல்ல ஒரு community ஒரு school. So அந்த மாதிரி அத மட்டும் you are going to have a deep analysis, okay, and you are going to check out all the other kinds of phenomena. So இங்க வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா there are two kinds of observation under case study. One is participant, another one is non-participant. So participant la வந்து the observer will also be one of the participant of the research. Non-participant la the observer will not be one among the group, but then he will be standing away from the group activities. So he doesn't have any group membership, participant and non-participant. So case studies are widely used and இங்க வந்து பாத்தீனா முதல்ல கேஸ் ஸ்டடி யார வந்து கேஸ் ஸ்டடிக்கு மட்டும் சொல்லுவாங்க அப்படினா சிக்மண்ட் ஃப்ராய்ட். ஓகே, சோ சிக்மண்ட் ஃப்ராய்ட் என்ன பண்ணாரு, he did an investigation with TNOU and little hands அப்படிங்கறவங்கள வச்சு. சோ இது வந்து என்ன அப்படினா he find out about hysteria patient. TNOU வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா hysteria patient. சோ அவங்களுக்கு வந்து ஒரு அனாலிசிஸ் பண்றதுக்காக கேஸ் ஸ்டடி பண்ணாங்க. And the little hands வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா he was a 5-year-old kid. ஒரு 5-year-old kid வந்து had a phobia of horses. Okay, so இந்த மாதிரி வந்து first வந்து he did experiment with these people. So இவங்க மேல பண்ணிருக்காங்க. So detailed investigation of the private lives of his patients. So with that he was able to help them to overcome their illness. So with TNOU is considered to be the daughter of Freud. I'm not very sure about it. So there are people telling that TNOU is the daughter of Freud, but little hands only he is another 5-year-old kid who has a phobia of horses, who has his fear. So he was able to get them out of the fears through his treatments. So case study la enna prachana irukku appadina again limitations they have given. So again bias இருக்குது. So then researcher உடைய own feeling வந்து can be problem. So around researcher bias, you can't replicate it with another person because every single individual is going to be different. It is time consuming. Yes, to understand one particular person or group it will be time consuming. And then volume of data வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா with time interactions வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா it's not possible with the available resources. So இருக்கிற resourcesல நமக்கு volume of data ரொம்ப கிடைக்காது. So we have to go into the field and we have to find out. The next one is going to be correlational research. This is the last topic for this unit. So correlation research la pathina you are finding out the relationship between variables. So here you are not using any extraneous variables. So no extraneous variable. If you want to know extraneous variable, it's there in the previous videos also. I will variables hypothesis தனியாவே ஒரு யூனிட் இருக்கு. So I wanted to go through that. Okay, now I'll tell you what is extraneous. For example, you are considering the studied habits. Okay, study hours nu vechikalam. Study hours of a child. Okay, along with the performance, along with this performance or the scores nu sollalam. So study hours scores impact பண்ணுது அப்படின்றப்போ study hours மட்டும் impact பண்ணுமா? There are some extraneous variables like is the child concentrated during study hours or is the child spending quality time இல்லனா வெறும் quantity time தான். So if a child is going to spend just quantity time and not quality time, then obviously scores are going to change. So அதான் வந்து அந்த extraneous variable. Whenever we do correlation research, we will consider that there is no extraneous variable. Extraneous variable எனக்கு ஒன்னு கிடையவே கிடையாது. So direct I am finding out the relationship between variable 1 and variable 2. Okay, and this is again used in a non-experimental research. Here you are taking for two variables and you are going to find out. So in the correlation பத்தி வந்து பாத்தீனா இன்னும் டீடைலா உங்களுக்கு வந்து next unitல கொடுத்திருப்பாங்க. But even this you can write for a 5-mark question. So 5-mark questions they have asked this, you can write this. But if you want to know a little more in detail, it is there in the fourth block. Okay, fourth block it is given. You will have to read that. Okay, so here correlational research வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா you are going to assess between the variables with little or no effort to control the extraneous variable. You are not considering that at all. So he is like correlation variables பண்ணும்போது you are getting 3 answers. So is there a relationship between this or not? So yes or no, what is the direction? What is the magnitude? Okay, so direction அப்படினா it is positive or negative. Magnitude na the value. Okay, I have already explained this in the previous videos and all. I told you the value will be -1 to +1. If it is -1 to 0, there is a negative correlation. If it is 0, there is no correlation. If it is 0 to 1, 0 to +1, there is going to be a positive correlation. Okay, இதா வந்து அந்த relationship. But you can never find out if A is having an impact on B or B is having an impact on A. So அதாவது between motivation and achievement கண்டுபிடிக்கிறோம். But you can't say if motivation is giving achievement or just because I am achieving I am feeling motivated அப்படின்ற மாதிரி you can't say. So that is what you cannot do here. Okay, so researcher வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா you can't manipulate the independent variable because it is impossible, impractical or unethical. Okay, manipulating an independent variable is not always possible. So I might be interested in explaining the relationship between the frequency people use cannabis and the memory abilities, but I can't force people to use it more. Or for example, I would tell you social media. So social media use பண்றவங்களுக்கும் and then I calculate the scores of the students who are using social media. I cannot tell the students use more social media. Okay, I cannot tell them stop using social media. So there it will become very highly impossible, it will be highly impractical, and it is going to become unethical also. So in the marna pannama, when we have to find out the correlationship அப்படின்றப்போ we are using this kind of correlation. Okay, so this is all regarding the unit 8. Okay, with unit 8 your third block is coming to an end. Okay, so next one வந்து unit fourth block வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா it is going to be statistics for those who are finding it difficult to understand mathematical problems, mathematical calculations. I would say you can skip this fourth block. If at all you are afraid to skip, you can read at least this second unit alone. Okay, so this alone if you read also it will be okay. Okay, so this is all regarding unit 8. So see you again with another unit or a block in the upcoming videos. I have posted video for previous year question paper also. You can go through it and benefit from it. Thank you everyone.